This is Mitsuo Akamori, a young man with a sharp suit and even sharper eyes, who seems to have a dark, bloody secret hidden just beneath the surface. Chapter 1. Mitsuo Akamori. The story begins with a man taking his frustrations out on a punching bag, his thoughts beginning to wander. No matter what has happened in life, some things remain constant. He muses that people always hesitate before committing suicide. As he ties his shoes, he thinks that in contrast, there are certain people who can handle both life and death with ease. He stands before a traditional dojo at night, continuing his philosophical train of thought. He believes that concepts like getting better physically or technically are just assumptions. In the end, it's all about one's perception of the value of life and whether you are willing to take it or not. His monologue concludes with the thought that martial arts have nothing to do with it. He snaps back to reality and announces his presence. "Excuse me." The thug leader steps inside the dojo, where a group of children are practicing. A man with a goatee and the air of a master asks him if he wants to join. The master politely declines the challenge, stating he is busy practicing with his sons. But the thug leader isn't here for pleasantries. He scoffs at the idea of dojo storming and tells the old man he doesn't expect an answer, making it clear he believes the master is afraid of being humbled in front of his sons. The master places a hand on the head of a small, quiet boy with dark hair. He introduces the child, who is none other than a young Mitsuo Akamori, as his youngest boy. The master then extends an invitation to the thug leader, asking if he would like to train with them. The thug leader's eyes fall on young Mitsuo, and a smirk spreads across his face. He finds this interesting and agrees. The master, in turn, thanks him. But the thug leader has malicious intentions. Cracking his knuckles, he sneers that it must be hard to feed so many children and that he'll help thin out the number of throats. As young Mitsuo charges forward, the master can only watch with a grim expression. As the fight begins, the thug leader ponders a question to himself. What would be the best martial art to use when both opponents are equally intent on murder? Despite his size, Mitsuo is no match for the larger man, who easily deflects his attack. The thug leader continues his internal monologue, listing off various martial arts like boxing, karate, judo, taekwondo, and Muay Thai. He considers mixed martial arts, but quickly dismisses it as well. He is certain that none of these are the ultimate killing art. He believes they have lost their significance, becoming mere games or tools of entertainment. He feels that even if a martial artist wanted to kill, the techniques of mixed arts wouldn't allow for it, as he effortlessly handles another of the master's sons. As another of the children is thrown aside, the thug leader continues his thought process. If he had to choose one true killing art, it would definitely be Shoshin Katsushiryu Kenpo. As the thug leader brutally strikes down another child, the master stands by, recognizing the style as a legendary killing art that still lives on today. The scene fades to black, and the story jumps forward 15 years into the future, landing in a modern-day city at night. We are now in a generic office building where inside, we see the adult Mitsuo Akamori, the young boy from the dojo, now grown up and working as a salaryman. He types away at his computer while his colleagues chat nearby. The scene is one of typical, mundane office life. Mitsuo is on the phone, his desk cluttered and overflowing with paperwork, a clear sign of his heavy workload. He wraps up his call. This is Mitsuo Akamori, now 24 years old. He works as a confectionery producer in product planning department for a company called Carvon. A colleague, his senpai, approaches Mitsuo, noting that he's still working late. Mitsuo confirms with a weary yes, and the senpai casually mentions he's also stuck with overtime. The senpai points out how messy Mitsuo's desk is compared to everyone else's, telling him he's working too much. Mitsuo seems oblivious, but the senpai mutters under his breath that Mitsuo must have been born stupid. The senpai bluntly tells Mitsuo that this is why everyone pushes work onto him, because he's stupid. He advises him that the golden rule is to make the job easy for yourself. Mitsuo can only offer a weak, awkward laugh in response, but inside, a thought begins to form. In his mind, he imagines himself pushing back the massive pile of documents, his demeanor suddenly cold and defiant. He visualizes telling his senpai, "I'm not going to do it, stupid," finally standing up for himself. It seems the previous confrontation was all in Mitsuo's head. In reality, his senpai invites him for a beer, which he declines. As the senpai leaves, Mitsuo thanks him, maintaining his meek persona. Meanwhile, another colleague is looking for a manual he printed. A kind-faced colleague approaches Mitsuo. She is Kashiwa Keat, 22 years old. She notes with concern that he is working overtime again. Keat asks what he's working on. Mitsuo confirms he has a lot to do, listing off a litany of tasks, preparing sales manuals, marketing reports, product packaging, and sending course request forms to ad agencies. Keat is stunned that he's handling all of this by himself. Mitsuo just smiles sheepishly and says that everyone just leaves it all to him, while she thinks to herself how unfair it is. She warns him that he'll burn out if he keeps working like this, but he assures her he's fine. He reveals that he works at home too, because his hands are full these days with something way more important. When Keat asks what that important thing is, Mitsuo replies, "Training you," pointing out that she is a trainee. The comment hangs awkwardly in air. After a moment of surprise, Keat smiles and offers her help, but Mitsuo says he's learning enough just by being near her. Deciding to call it a day, she wishes him good night as she leaves the now empty office. The clock hits 10:35 p.m. Mitsuo is the only one left, typing away in the silent office. A bead of sweat drips down his face as his fingers fly across the keyboard, the picture of an overworked employee pushing his limits. Finally, he slumps over his desk in exhaustion. The clock now reads 11:14 p.m., the late hour marked by empty energy drink bottles. He decides to rest his eyes, telling himself he'll just sleep for 5 minutes. But he immediately realizes that if he falls asleep now, he'll be out until morning. He groans at the thought, still utterly exhausted. With a sigh, he gives up on working any later, closing his laptop. He resigns himself to finishing the work at home and leaves the deserted office. Mitsuo walks alone through the city, the towering dark buildings reflecting his solitude. He's so tired he can't even remember if he submitted an important report. He glances at his watch. It's 11:30 p.m. Needing to be sure, he finds a park bench to sit down and check his briefcase for the documents. As he rummages through his bag, some papers slip out and fall to the ground. While bending over to pick them up, a strange noise catches his attention. In the distance, he sees a horrifying scene. A group of 3 young thugs are brutally kicking and beating an old man, while another looks on amused. The old man's pleas for mercy and his screams of pain echo in the night. Mitsuo, still on the ground, freezes as he hears the man cry out, "Don't hit my medulla." As he gathers his fallen papers, Mitsuo watches the assault, thinking to himself how unbelievable it is to witness an attack on a middle-aged man like this. He looks over the documents in his hand, then back at the thugs, thinking with a dark sense of irony that only ignorant people would do such things, and that their lives must be far easier than his own. He lets out a long, weary sigh, seemingly ready to ignore the situation and move on from the unpleasantness. He decides to find another place to sort his things, but as he turns to leave, a sharp stops him in his tracks. His face pales. He's been spotted. The thugs, led by the same man with the scar from the dojo 15 years ago, surround him. "What are you looking at?" the leader demands. As Mitsuo stammers in fear, his meek salaryman persona is still in full effect. Mitsuo desperately tries to de-escalate, claiming he was just taking a break and saw nothing. But the thug leader has no patience for excuses. With a snarl to shut the fuck up, he lands a vicious punch to Mitsuo's jaw, sending him stumbling. The thug leader gets in Mitsuo's face, demanding he empty his pockets and hand over his wallet. Mitsuo's eyes, however, are no longer filled with fear, but with a cold, unnerving focus. Mitsuo weakly claims he has no money, which only serves to amuse the thugs, who laugh at his pathetic defiance. Enraged, the thug leader grabs Mitsuo by the collar, screaming that he'll kill him. But as he does, he fails to notice the shift in Mitsuo's expression from a scared victim to a cold, calculating predator. A long, tense silence hangs in the air before Mitsuo speaks, his voice devoid of fear. "Kill me?" he asks, the question turning the threat back on his attacker. As his briefcase thuds onto the pavement, Mitsuo's transformation is complete. Looking up with eyes that have seen true violence, he states calmly, "It isn't that easy." In a flash of movement, Mitsuo slams the thug leader face first into the ground. With a foot planted firmly on his back, Mitsuo's voice drips with menace as he asks, "What were you saying about killing people?" Pinning the thug's head to the ground, Mitsuo delivers a chillingly specific threat. "Listen, now. I'm going to kick your 5th vertebrae." The thug's eyes widen in pure terror. While holding the thug in a brutally efficient lock, Mitsuo calmly lectures him on the medical consequences. Breathing will get harder, followed by paralysis as the muscles and nerves in his back are systematically destroyed. Looking down at the terrified man, Mitsuo concludes his lesson in cruelty. He promises to choke him to death so he'll die in pain and fear, then glances at the other two, adding, "You guys too." The remaining two thugs, frozen in fear, finally react. One shakily pulls out a folding knife while the other brandishes a crackling stun gun. Spurred into action, the thug with the knife lunges forward in a desperate, wild stab. Mitsuo sidesteps the attack with fluid grace, redirecting the blade. "Are you afraid of stabbing yourself?" he asks mockingly, before delivering a vicious knee to the thug's ribs, knocking the wind out of him. As the thug crumples to the ground in agony, Mitsuo gives him a piece of advice: hold the folding knife with your two hands. The last thug watches, his horror growing. With a scream of "die," the last thug charges, thrusting the stun gun towards Mitsuo's chest. Mitsuo effortlessly parries the attack, knocking the stun gun aside with the back of his hand as if swatting a fly. He looks at his attacker with utter contempt. "D? Are you really going to kill me with a stun gun?" he scoffs before slamming his fist into the thug's face. The thug stumbles back, defeated. As the stun gun clatters to the ground, Mitsuo calmly adds, "If you really want to do that, at least use a taser." On his knees, the thug can only look up in utter terror, stammering, "Be bastard." Mitsuo grabs him by the hair, his face a mask of cold fury. His mind flashes back to his training. Dodge the attacks elegantly, attack to the vertebrae rigorously. This is the way. A single tear escapes the thug's eye as he stares up at the cold, emotionless face of the man who so easily dismantled him and his friends. The last thug lies incapacitated on the ground, twitching in a puddle of his own making. The scene flashes back to the dojo years ago. A young Mitsuo stands over a defeated opponent as his master's voice explains that robust muscles and supple movements make an MMA fighter, but that power means nothing against the killing art of Shoshin Katsushiryu and against Mitsuo himself. The flashback continues. The master notes that young Mitsuo has achieved his goal of defeating a third opponent. He then sets a new, chilling goal: next time, let's kill 10, shall we? The master informs his other students that they will all be involved in this training. He then places a hand on young Mitsuo's head, acknowledging him as the group's terrifying prodigy. A sinister smile plays on the master's lips as he thinks how easily Mitsuo could kill a real fighter. "Keep working hard like this," he muses, his thought building towards the boy's ultimate title. But, in the end, he is the master's thought from the past completes itself, revealing the horrifying truth of Mitsuo's upbringing. He is the most gifted murderer in our family. Snapping back to the present, Mitsuo stands over the last thug, who can only stare up in abject terror at the man who so thoroughly and cruelly defeated him. Mitsuo turns his back on them, making a decision. "I'm not going to kill you," he states. As the thug leader processes this, Mitsuo explains with a chilling smile, "Because I want to stay as a salaryman." He pauses for a moment, standing over the wreckage he created, before adding one final, terrifying thought. "Well, in my case," he says while calmly walking away, "it is easier than being a salaryman." The thugs are left broken and terrified, watching the unassuming salaryman disappear into the night. And so the story begins. This is the path of Mitsuo Akamori, a 24-year-old salaryman. It is a path covered in blood. A dark figure living in the modern era, he disappears into the darkness and keeps working overtime. The second chapter of Satsudou begins, promising a 44-page battle entertainment experience. The scene opens on an exhausted office worker, Mitsuo Akamori, fast asleep at his desk, a nearly empty bottle of black coffee teetering on the edge. This is the start of Chapter 2, Shoshin Katsushiryu. His colleagues, however, are engaged in a lively conversation nearby. The woman, Kashiwa Kit, impressed, asks their coworker, Inju, if he really teaches Shirinji Kenpo. He confirms, mentioning he just teaches elementary and middle school students on weekends. Inju proudly states that he even met his wife through the Shirinji Club at university. He then turns his attention to the sleeping Akamori, suggesting that Kashiwa should try it for exercise. The colleagues continue to discuss how doing exercises relieves stress, implying that Akamori's lifestyle must be stressful. Little do they know, this ordinary salaryman is Roko Akamori, the sixth son of a family that practices a legendary killing technique, walking a bloody path in secret. Suddenly, the coffee bottle finally tips over. Inju looks over, noticing the spill and the collection of other empty bottles surrounding their sleeping coworker. With a swift move, Inju stops the falling bottle with his foot. The slight disturbance is enough to stir Akamori, who groggily wakes up, realizing he had fallen asleep on the job. Akamori decides he should wash his face. Just then, Inju and Kashiwa approach him. Kashiwa says his name with concern, and Inju tells him he looks tired and should take a proper break. Inju playfully pokes Akamori, suggesting he should take up sports. Akamori politely declines, but Kashiwa observes him, noting that contrary to his claims of being busy, he looks like someone who does some sports. Caught off guard, Akamori explains that he usually just sits at home and watches a TV show called Salaryman Jintaru. Inju is flabbergasted, exclaiming that it sounds incredibly boring. Akamori's demeanor suddenly changes as he passionately defends the show, claiming it's surprisingly fun and a great learning experience on how to be an ordinary salaryman, much to his colleagues' confusion. He explains that the show is about fighting injustice and bosses to achieve perfect attendance, which everyone does. Inju, still not getting it, asks where the fun part is and warns Akamori that he's going to lose his mind watching such things. Inju tries again to get Akamori to learn Shorinji Kenpo, arguing that strong guys are popular with girls. But Akamori dismisses the idea, saying there's no chance for him. Inju retorts that he'd die if he ever got in a fight, while Kashiwa chuckles at the exchange. Still trying to make his point, Inju sets up a hypothetical situation. He smirks and asks Akamori what he would do if a drunk person tried to kick him in the stomach. As Inju demonstrates with a high kick, Akamori simply ducks underneath it with minimal effort, calmly replying, "I would duck like this." His colleagues burst into laughter at his deadpan response, with Inju calling him a funny Jackie Chan. As they laugh, Akamori quietly thinks to himself that there's no way he'd ever get hit. The scene then transitions away from the office. Night falls on the city. In front of a glowing arcade, a group of young men, including Akamori, are seen walking along the wet pavement. Inside the noisy arcade, filled with game machines, the story shifts to the consequences of the previous night's events. A young man with light hair questions three others who are kneeling before him. He recounts their story. They were beating up an old man when a salaryman intervened, getting them angry enough to attack him with weapons. The leader looks down on his defeated men, and then all of a sudden, he beat you three up. Did I get it right? He asks, confirming the unbelievable story from the night before. He then reveals a pack of pills, questioning if this incident was why they missed an important drug deal. He scolds them, saying they underestimated the world, thinking gangs were smarter than the Yakuza. The thugs tremble in fear as their leader's face darkens. He leans in and asks menacingly, "Or did you underestimate me?" One of the thugs desperately tries to explain that the salaryman wasn't normal, that he was just really lucky. But their leader isn't listening, calling him stupid and warning that because of them, the deal has been postponed and they'll be executed if caught. A chilling smile spreads across the leader's face. "I am scared," he says sarcastically. He takes a deliberate step forward, his voice dripping with menace. With a sudden vicious movement, he kicks one of his subordinates in the face. The panel introduces him, Aota Kenshin, a 24-year-old former junior kickboxing champion. Even the former junior kickboxing champion can't win against him, you say? He sneers, his disbelief turning into dangerous curiosity. Aota Kenshin leans in closer to his terrified subordinate, a menacing smile playing on his lips. He tells the thug that he and his friends have been pretty unlucky today. The thug immediately prostrates himself on the ground, apologizing profusely, his face a mask of pure terror. Aota continues to press his foot near the man's face, asking if they're serious about their story. The thug can only look up in confusion while repeating his apologies. Aota finally gets to the heart of his disbelief. He demands to know if the salaryman actually tried to kill them. The thug frantically insists it's the truth. He claims he hit the salaryman's throat with a stun gun, but nothing happened. Aota scoffs, accusing him of missing because he was scared. Another one of the thugs, his face bandaged from the previous encounter, backs up the story. He recounts how he tried to stab the man to death, only for the salaryman to effortlessly disarm him. Hearing that two of his men attacked and failed, Aota begins to wonder if the man is a martial artist. An explanation follows, showing how a basic dodging move in Chinese martial arts which seems simple, is actually quite complex. Aota muses that even if the move looks easy, it is incredibly hard to master. He concludes that if someone were to perfect it, even professionals would be defeated just as easily as his men were. The thugs, clearly out of their depth, can only look on in fear, admitting they don't know much about such things. One of the thugs tries to appeal to Aota's ego, suggesting that even if the salaryman is a skilled martial artist, a professional like Aota would surely see through his moves and beat him up. In a sudden explosion of violence, Aota delivers a devastating kick to the face of the thug who just spoke, sending him flying backward. "Let's see," he mutters, his face a grim mask. As the thug lies unconscious on the ground, Aota looks down at him with contempt. "All of a sudden, you've changed your idea about my strength, huh?" he asks sarcastically. Aota clarifies that he's not forgiving them for their failure. Instead, he's become interested in this mysterious salaryman. He boasts about his own physical prowess, his height, leg length, and kicking speed, confident he can crush any opponent. Standing over his beaten subordinate, Aota makes a decision. He will handle this personally. "I'll get that guy, instead of you," he declares to his terrified crew. The scene shifts. Mitsuo Akamori is walking down a brightly lit street at night, seemingly on his way home from work, when he perks up, having noticed something. His phone buzzes. It's a call from someone named Katsuragi. Akamori answers, confirming his identity as he walks. It's his boss, who greets him before immediately stating that he needs some important documents urgently. Akamori, maintaining his polite salaryman persona, says it's no problem. The boss specifies that he needs the planning documents for the strawberry chips released last year. Akamori confirms they're on his PC, but his boss's next demand adds a layer of pressure. He needs them sent right away, within 30 minutes. Akamori feels a headache coming on. He's not near any cafes or parks where he could work. He realizes with dread that to meet the deadline, his only option is to run home. His boss, oblivious to his predicament, presses him on the 30-minute deadline, even suggesting he should run. Trapped, Akamori can only agree, his face betraying his frustration. Sighing in resignation, Akamori concludes there's no other way. He has to run. But just as he's about to take off, a voice calls out, stopping him in his tracks. Akamori turns to find his path blocked. It's Aota Kinshun and his gang, the very thugs from the night before, staring him down. Aota steps forward, a hint of a smirk on his face. Salaryman. "Sorry for stopping you," he says, before asking if Akamori remembers what happened yesterday. Akamori, annoyed by the delay, retorts that he should be the one asking what's going on. One of the thugs excitedly confirms to Aota, "Wes, this is him." Aota's eyes narrow, his expression a mix of curiosity and condescension as he scans Akamori from head to toe, trying to reconcile the monster from his men's story with the ordinary salaryman standing before him. The two face off in the quiet street. Akamori stands impassively, clutching his briefcase with an air of annoyance at being delayed. Aota continues his intense scrutiny, the disconnect growing between the terrifying legend he was told and the unimpressive man he sees with his own eyes. Aota continues to observe Akamori, noting that he doesn't seem to want to fight and that his body looks weak and unsuitable for it. One of his thugs, however, begs him to deal with the salaryman, still terrified from their previous encounter. Aota explains that he has to beat Akamori up because his 3 men didn't show up for work yesterday. Akamori, looking down at his briefcase, seems to finally snap. He doesn't understand why he showed them mercy. In that instant, Akamori's entire demeanor shifts. The tired, unassuming salaryman is gone, replaced by a cold-blooded killer. His eyes are dark and empty as he says, "Maybe I can find out after killing you." Aota is taken aback by the sudden transformation. He realizes with a start, "I got it now." He turned into a completely different person. "So this is the guy who beat those 3 up?" Aota repeats the same words he said to his subordinate earlier, "You are pretty unlucky today." But Akamori just looks at him blankly, questioning what he means by unlucky. Without another word, the former kickboxing champion, Aota, launches a powerful high kick aimed at Akamori's head. Akamori, however, effortlessly ducks under the attack. Before Aota can recover, Akamori hooks his foot behind Aota's standing leg, completely breaking his balance. With a simple, fluid motion, Akamori sweeps Aota's leg out from under him, sending the kickboxer crashing to the ground. The fight is over in an instant. Aota lies stunned on the pavement as Akamori stands over him, completely composed. Akamori looks down at the defeated Aota and says, "I don't get it." From the ground, Aota realizes this wasn't about luck. Akamori coldly informs him, "I would have killed you if I had to." The diagram illustrates the chilling truth behind Akamori's words. With his technique, he can simply kick and shatter a person's vertebral column. Aota looks up in horror as he sees Akamori's foot raised, as if to deliver that very killing blow. "Hold on, he stammers in disbelief. But Akamori just smirks. "Just kidding," he says, his salaryman persona returning. "I am a salaryman, right?" He tells Aota that today, he himself was unlucky, while Aota was very lucky to be spared. Then, with a final chilling declaration, Akamori says, "I quit killing people." He checks his phone, remembering his boss's deadline, as Aota and his thugs can only stare in shock from the ground. As Akamori turns and rushes off, muttering about being late, it's revealed that the entire confrontation was witnessed. A bystander, hidden in the shadows, has been recording everything on his phone. With a look of sheer excitement and shock, the bystander quickly uploads the video to social media. The video is posted online. Almost instantly, comments start pouring in as the clip begins to spread like wildfire. The post goes viral. The numbers climb rapidly: 3,099 likes, 21 retweets. Comments flood in, calling him the strongest salaryman and the strongest in the area. People are in awe, questioning if it's fake or if he's a true master. The video becomes a sensation. It becomes the second trend, with a hashtag #BestSalaryman garnering over 7,700 tweets. On that day, the video amassed a staggering 77,000 views. But amidst the online craze, there was one person who found out the real truth. A karateka, sitting in his dojo, quietly watching the clip on his phone. He analyzes the footage, noting Akamori's sidekick. He realizes that the man in the video is no ordinary martial artist. A chill runs down his spine as he begins to understand. The video reaches the Nikaho Kinpo Kai, spreading through the martial arts underground. Soon after, two more boxers discover the truth. One of them shows the video to his superior, asking if it's what he thinks it is. The older man confirms, stating that it's still not too late. In dimly lit dojos and hushed corners of boxing gyms, the realization started to spread among martial artists all across Japan. From karate to ancient arts, masters of the fighting world were dissecting the viral clip. They all came to the same terrifying conclusion. The young man in the pixelated video was not an ordinary master. He was the living embodiment of a notorious and forbidden style, the personification of the infamous. From offices to apartments, all across the city, people are watching the video. The truth spreads through the underworld. The technique is not just any martial art. It's the notorious Shoshin Katsushiryu. Shoshin Katsushiryu, at its core, is a killing technique. It has been taught for centuries within the Akamori family, a lineage known as the Bloody Family. Its techniques, both offensive and defensive, are beyond normal human skill and focus on a single lethal goal: destroying the cervical vertebrae. For hundreds of years, this dark art has been the sworn enemy of countless martial artists. Many fathers, teachers, and friends have been killed by its practitioners. A secret meeting of martial artists is held. The speaker addresses the packed room, explaining that despite being their sworn enemies, the Akamori family and their Shoshin Katsushiryu have remained hidden, with only whispers and shady witnesses of their acts until now. The speaker declares that this new video evidence changes everything. The crowd listens with grim faces as he gives a chilling order for the man in the video, who is now just some guy walking on the streets: kill on sight. His declaration made, the leader of the assembly crushes his phone in a fit of rage. The hunt has begun. The chapter ends with the unsuspecting Akamori. The sixth son of the Akamori clan has been found. As he rushes to his next destination, completely unaware of the danger, the martial arts world mobilizes to avenge their ancestors. Today, he is truly unlucky. Chapter 3, Ordinary. The chapter opens by showing the impact of the previous chapter's events. A video of a man's incredible fighting skills has gone viral, amassing hundreds of thousands of views and likes. In a bar, a man with blonde hair excitedly asks the man who filmed the clip about the video's viral success. The man who recorded it, with long dark hair, seems smug about the attention simply stating that if you walk around, you might see something interesting. A waitress asks the cameraman if he's been contacted by TV stations for an interview. He scoffs, saying he rejected them because they didn't offer any money. Just then, he gets a notification on his phone. He's flooded with direct messages. People are asking for more information about the video, where and when it was taken, and what the person in the video looked like. They are desperate for details. One message catches his eye. It's from an anonymous account, expressing a strong desire for more information and making a tantalizing offer. We are willing to pay. The offer is a staggering 20 million yen, displayed along with a picture of stacks of cash, leaving the man in stunned silence. The next day, the scene shifts to a cafe. Mitsuo Akamori, the man from the viral video, is back in his salaryman persona, discussing a new product presentation with his colleague Kashiwa Keat. Kashiwa thanks him, saying she's learning a lot and wishes him luck. Akamori, maintaining his quiet demeanor, apologizes for always leaving the note-taking to her. Akamori offers to help Kashiwa with any questions she might have, causing her to get a bit flustered. In the background, they overhear other patrons discussing the news. The patrons are talking about a recent incident nearby, where a man attacked a police officer with a knife. They mention that the suspect is still on the run. The conversation then shifts to an even more shocking event, a murder that occurred today. Akamori overhears this, his expression unchanging as he continues to review his documents. Kashiwa, worried by the news, asks Akamori if he isn't scared. He looks up at her, seemingly unfazed by the disturbing conversation they just overheard. Akamori calmly replies, "Why wouldn't I?" He then explains that he must have zoned out, claiming it's been a while since he lost his feelings, a strange comment that he quickly attributes to overworking. Kashiwa laughs it off, telling him he's working too much. Akamori smiles weakly, admitting he usually does get scared, and that it makes him want to go home whenever he hears things like that. He suggests walking with Kashiwa to the station, but she assures him she'll be all right. Trying to act normal, Akamori comments on how they often sit together at the cafe and sometimes go home together. He then makes the situation incredibly awkward by adding, like lovers, which causes a startled Kashiwa to spit her drink all over the table. Kashiwa, blushing and flustered, tells him people don't normally joke about things like that. Akamori immediately realizes his mistake, internally panicking and telling himself he needs to act normal. Trying to salvage the situation, Kashiwa nervously calls him airheadly funny. Akamori forces a laugh, agreeing with her as she tries to compose herself. Akamori apologizes, saying he says weird things sometimes. Kashiwa playfully pats his head, calling him airhead-kun. For a brief moment, Akamori's eye reveals a flicker of his true, intense nature. Just then, their senior colleague, Katsuragi, approaches. He tells Kashiwa that while Akamori is a hard worker, he's also a total airhead that dumbfounds everyone, and she should get used to it. Kashiwa seems intrigued and wants to hear more. Akamori tries to shut the conversation down, but Katsuragi, eager to gossip, claims it was even worse when Akamori first joined the company. Katsuragi recounts a story from past. He mentions another colleague took a day off after his father passed away. Akamori, a new employee at the time, seemed confused and started taking notes, questioning what was happening. In the flashback, an exasperated Katsuragi asks Akamori if he even knows what taking a day off because of mourning is, shocked by his cluelessness. Back in the present, Katsuragi once again calls Akamori an airhead. Kashiwa seems sympathetic, while Akamori quietly states that with all due respect, he doesn't think he's the one in the wrong. Akamori attempts to justify his lack of social understanding by explaining that things like mourning weren't taught at his university. The statement is so literal and odd that it only reinforces his airhead reputation in the office. As Akamori enters the subway station, his cold eyes scan his surroundings. He notices the increased police presence, a response to the recent incidents in the area. He internally notes the heightened security, questioning if such incidents are truly not normal. He sighs, reflecting that despite his efforts to learn how to be normal over the years, there are still things he doesn't understand. As the train arrives, his thoughts drift to his family. He doesn't hold grudges, but because of his upbringing, he admits to himself that he truly hates his father. This triggers a flashback. A younger Akamori sits before his father, the master of their dojo, and says he wants to quit killing people. His father questions this sudden inner conflict, stating it's not like him, and that it means losing his very reason for existence. The master coldly suggests that at 16, Akamori couldn't carry the burden of killing 1,000 martial artists. But Akamori replies that it's not that. It's that whenever he kills someone, he feels a part of himself fading away. His father asks if he feels empty or weak. He tells Akamori that the previous day's match decided his fate. He gives him an ultimatum: leave the dojo, blend in, and live in society. A shocked Akamori asks if his father won't oppose his decision. The master states he couldn't care less, but warns him that he can't escape the never-ending struggle destined for their family. The flashback ends. Back in the present, Akamori stands on the train, holding his briefcase. He reaffirms his resolution. He will live a normal life like a normal person and keep on living that way. Suddenly, his resolve is shattered. Out of nowhere, a man lunges at him, brandishing a knife with a terrifying scream. The subway attacker viciously stabs Akamori in the shoulder. Blood splatters as Akamori grunts in pain. The attacker grins with manic glee. The attacker manages to say, "Found you." As chaos erupts on the train, passengers scream in terror, shouting that someone has been stabbed and urging everyone to run and call the police. The bloodied attacker reveals his motive, screaming that Akamori killed his father 3 years ago, which led to his mother's suicide. He declares himself the first of many who are coming after Akamori and vows to kill him with his own bare hands. Ignoring his own wound, a chillingly calm Akamori looks at his trembling attacker and asks a terrifying question: "Does it hurt?" A reflection in the train window shows the stark contrast between the two men. Akamori, though bloodied, appears cold and analytical, while his attacker is frozen in fear and shock. The subway attacker stands over Akamori, who has seemingly collapsed to the floor, still clutching the bloody knife. But Akamori was merely picking up his briefcase. He rises to his feet, his suit stained with blood, looking more annoyed than injured. A shot from the viral video is shown, connecting his current actions to his hidden identity. The attacker realizes his mistake, his eyes widening in terror as he recognizes Akamori from the viral video. "You're that guy," he screams. Before the attacker can react, Akamori's instincts take over. He effortlessly blocks the knife, strikes his opponent's arm, and delivers a devastating blow to the face, all while calmly asking if these kind of things will show up on his commuter pass. The knife clatters to the floor. Akamori stands over the unconscious attacker, holding the weapon. He complains to the horrified crowd that this is all very exhausting for a simple salaryman. The surrounding passengers stare in stunned silence, looking from the defeated attacker on the ground to the blood-splattered salaryman, who took him down with such brutal efficiency. Akamori calmly walks through the terrified crowd as they whisper in disbelief, questioning what just happened and how the attacker was defeated so easily. Akamori's primary concern is not the fight, but that he might miss episode 7 of Jean Teru due to the train being delayed. He looks around, relieved that none of his colleagues witnessed the incident. As police rush into the station, Akamori calmly walks past them and exits through the turnstiles, melting back into the city. A frantic witness tries to explain to a police officer what just transpired, stammering that a passenger took the attacker down in an instant before leaving in a hurry, but he's too shaken to give a clear description. Meanwhile, having escaped the chaotic scene, Akamori walks up the station stairs, briefcase in hand. He thinks to himself that he's getting tired of this violent life and resolves to take a taxi to continue his ordinary evening. As Akamori hurries away, he suddenly notices that a button from his shirt is missing, likely torn off during the struggle. Cursing his bad luck, he glances back, then continues running for his taxi, thinking it's not too late. Unbeknownst to him, a group of imposing men in suits have been watching him from a distance. Their leader, a man with a prominent scar on his face, identifies their target, remarking, "That's our guy. He is an Akamori. Looks like it was worth 20 yen. The leader orders his men to follow Akamori. One of them asks if they can truly beat their ancestors' enemy. With confidence, the leader simply replies, "I believe you can." The true leader of the group, a calculating man with round glasses, steps forward. He holds the missing button from Akamori's shirt. He states that even after all this time, the Akamori family is still known for its Shoshin Katsushiryu style. To stop the sixth son, he must act first class, because he is an ex-professional. The chapter ends, leaving Akamori's fate hanging in the balance. At the office, Mitsuo Akamori's colleagues crowd around a phone, watching the viral video of his fight on the train. His colleague Kashiwa Kit is shocked, exclaiming how dangerous it looks, while another coworker agrees, noting that although the man's face is obscured, he seems young. As the video continues to attract attention, Akamori looks on with a sense of dread. The shocking footage of his true abilities is now public, and as the chapter comes to a close, he can only mutter that he has a bad feeling about this. Chapter 4, titled Presentiment, begins. At a confectionery company, Kashiwa Kit stares intently at her desk, struggling to come up with ideas for a new product. Just as she feels stuck, her senior colleague arrives for the day. The colleague, Mitsuo Akamori, notices Kit's distress and asks if she's looking for ideas for the upcoming meeting. When she admits she doesn't know what to write, he offers to show her his own idea sheet as a reference, much to her gratitude. Kit is amazed by Akamori's idea sheet for a vulture chocolate. It's incredibly detailed, complete with charts on baldness rates and scientific classifications of vulture species. The drawing of the vulture is so intense and realistic that it startles her. Kit finds the idea both fresh and scary. Another colleague asks what data supports the 85% bald statistic. This is the same Akamori who, just the day before, had brutally beaten up an attacker on a train, a fight that was recorded and has now gone viral, exposing him to the criminal underworld. The peaceful office atmosphere is broken when another colleague, Katsuragi, approaches Akamori. He brings up the news that's been on all channels since yesterday, a fatal attack on a train right near their location. Katsuragi casually mentions that he was going to ask Akamori about the incident, remembering that he was on that train at the time. He remarks that he didn't expect the situation to be so serious. A nervous Akamori quickly tries to distance himself, claiming it happened on the train behind his. But Kit, who has seen the footage online, thinks to herself that he's lying. As Akamori sweats, trying to maintain his normal facade, his colleagues recall more details. Katsuragi remembers hearing that the passenger didn't just stop the attacker, but left him half dead. The conversation shifts as a colleague reveals the incident was captured on video and is all over the internet. People are debating whether the passenger is the strongest salaryman, and a second video titled Delinquent vs. Strongest Salaryman has also appeared. Akamori is horrified as his colleagues pinpoint that the strongest salaryman is him. He begs them not to watch the violent footage, but they ignore his pleas and excitedly decide to play the video. The scene shifts to a dark alley where bodies lie scattered and unconscious. A man with long black hair, Yusuke, stands amidst the carnage, expressing his annoyance that these delinquents were pretending to be part of his group. The man, Yusuke Dogen, leader of the Shinjuku Savage Hangar, confronts his second-in-command, Aota Kenshin. Yusuke is furious that the viral video of Aota being beaten by a salaryman, Komori, is making their organization look weak and underestimated. Yusuke tells Aota, a former junior kickboxing champion, that he needs to get rid of his pride. To drive the point home, he offers him a Walther PPS pistol, suggesting that being disrespected is not enough of a reason to get himself killed. Infuriated by the insult, the hot-headed Aota snatches the gun and aims it at his leader's head, threatening to kill him. Unfazed, Yusuke calmly tells him that's enough. Their confrontation is interrupted by the arrival of another group. Their leader, Gozu Tanaka of the Yomagami Yakuza organization, addresses Yusuke directly, calling him and his hangar followers nothing more than insects. Tanaka mocks Yusuke, asking if he fired one of his men for the hilarious crime of getting his ass handed to him by a simple salaryman. As Tanaka's men erupt in laughter, Yusuke seethes with silent rage. Aota is restrained by one of the Yakuza, forced to endure the humiliation. Yusuke confronts Tanaka, questioning his intentions. Tanaka gives a veiled response, mentioning that the anti-gang laws have their hands tied and that they might need the hangar's help in the future, implying they are to be used as tools. Tanaka laughs, saying he's grateful for the entertainment the video provided. He then condescendingly pats Aota on the head, telling him to be happy that he received his thanks. Aota trembles with suppressed fury. His face is a mask of pure hatred as he glares, his lips parting to speak. Finishing his thought, Aota looks at the Yakuza boss and quietly states, "You are really unlucky today." Tanaka, now wearing sunglasses, turns back, asking what he just said. In a sudden explosion of violence, Aota unleashes a devastating kick, catching Tanaka square in the face. The Yakuza underlings scream out for their young leader as he's sent flying, blood erupting from the impact. The brawl ignites. Fueled by pure rage, Aota continues his assault, throwing a flurry of brutal kicks and punches at Tanaka's men while screaming, "Don't fuck with me, you piece of shit." However, Aoda's furious attack is stopped with shocking ease. A man with glasses, who had been standing with the Yakuza, effortlessly blocks the front kick. He calmly remarks that using such a kick was expected from an experienced kicker, leaving Aoda stunned and off balance. The man with glasses looks down on the former champion with a cold, analytical gaze. He tells Aoda that while his feet are a weapon, he uses them like an amateur. Before Aoda can even process the insult, the man moves. In a single fluid motion, he steps past the kick, locks Aoda's legs, and presses the tip of a pen against his throat. Aoda is completely neutralized, as the man advises him to use everything he has in a real fight. Aoda is in utter disbelief, his body frozen. He realizes with horror that the man had read his moves perfectly and reacted instantly. The Yakuza leader, Gozu Tanaka, orders them to stop. The man with glasses calmly agrees, turning to Yusuke to talk business. Tanaka finally reveals his true motive. He states that the salaryman who defeated Aoda is a member of a family that was once the Umegumi's sworn enemy. He then gestures to his associate, introducing him as the organization's private hitman. The hitman, completely composed after the brief altercation, adjusts his tie as he is formally introduced, Gumakuji Mata. The word hitman sends a chill through Aoda and Yusuke. They are in disbelief, having assumed Mata was just some ordinary man. The gravity of their situation and the danger Akamori is in suddenly becomes terrifyingly clear. His point made, Gumakuji Mata prepares to leave. He coolly states that his name is just an alias and that he hopes they can meet again, a clear, ominous threat that leaves the hangar members speechless. At the office, Akamori's colleagues show him a video that has been circulating online. On the screen is a clip of his own fight. His colleagues are a mix of amazed and concerned, commenting on how dangerous the situation looks and trying to guess the identity of the man in the video. Akamori, however, is frozen in shock, staring at the screen as his carefully constructed normal life begins to crumble. Sweating and filled with dread, Akamori can only agree that it's a shocking video, a terrible premonition washing over him. As his colleague talks, his mind scrambles for an escape, bizarrely thinking about an idea for bald eagle-shaped chocolate he discussed earlier, a desperate, absurd attempt to cling to the mundane office life that is now slipping through his fingers. The chapter ends on his terrified face. His past has finally caught up to him. The scene opens in a dimly lit office where the man with round glasses reports to his superior about their target, Akamori. He notes that Akamori has become cautious, but his boss is growing impatient, stating that a week has already passed and demanding to know the status of their plan. The man with round glasses calmly states they are fully prepared for war. However, another associate, unconvinced, suddenly draws a pistol and points it at him, questioning his resolve. The gunman threatens the man with round glasses, claiming he paid a fortune for the weapon and that powerful overseas mafias are after their target, emphasizing the high stakes of their mission. In a blur of motion, the man with round glasses proves his superiority. He deflects the gun, simultaneously striking the gunman's arm, causing the weapon to discharge harmlessly away from him as he neutralizes the threat. Having effortlessly disarmed his aggressive colleague, the man with round glasses pins him to the ground. He scoffs internally, lamenting that if only all his enemies were this weak, he wouldn't have any problems. Assured of his plan, the man with round glasses states that no matter how careful the target is, he will eventually have to lower his guard. He confidently declares to his associates that the target will be dead within 3 hours. The scene shifts to the target himself, Mitsuo Akamori. Completely unaware of the plot against him, he maintains his cover as an ordinary, cheerful office worker. Back at the office, Akamori's colleague, Kashiwa Keat, is being praised for her work. She modestly claims she was just lucky, while Akamori observes the interaction with a neutral, almost detached expression. The mundane reality of Akamori's cover life is shown as he despairs over a bizarre work idea for a bald eagle-shaped chocolate, startling his colleague with his sudden frustration. The office brainstorming session dissolves into chaos. While Kashiwa supports Akamori's idea, he lies dejected on the floor as other colleagues propose even stranger concepts, like cockroach crackers. Suddenly, Kashiwa remembers and calls out to Akamori, reminding him about an interview scheduled for 2 p.m. Akamori, who seems to have forgotten, is caught by surprise. As Akamori gets up to leave, Kashiwa wishes him good luck. She mistakenly believes the interview is for a company article, completely unaware it's a meticulously planned trap. As a parting shot, Akamori playfully tells Kashiwa not to forget his bald eagle-shaped chocolate idea, much to her annoyance. It's a final moment of levity before he walks into the lion's den. The interview begins. Akamori is led into a room by the man with round glasses, who is now posing as an interviewer. Sensing the tension, Akamori asks how long it will take. The assassin gives a chilling response. Covering his mouth, he states that 10 minutes will be more than enough to conclude their business, leaving no doubt about his lethal intentions. The assassin begins the interview by confirming Akamori's identity, addressing him as the legendary killer, Rokuro. He smiles, seemingly amused to finally meet the man behind the myth. The assassin boasts about his methods, explaining how easy it is to bypass security by simply abducting an employee and stealing their access card to gain entry and confidential data. Maintaining his cover, the assassin asks a generic interview question about training new graduates, continuing the facade before he makes his move. The assassin lectures his target, explaining that the difficulty of an assassination isn't the killing itself, but the perfect execution of the technique. He reveals his hand, detailing his cunning plan to attack from below using a blade hidden in the tip of his shoe, a move he believes will be impossible to see or counter. The assassin reveals his final trump card, a pin filled with palotoxin, a poison so potent it can kill instantly. Confident in his flawless plan, he smugly thinks to himself, too easy. Just as the assassin lunges forward to deliver the fatal blow with his shoe blade, Akamori calmly asks what the hardest part of the job is, baiting his opponent. In a shocking twist, Akamori kicks the table upwards, blocking the hidden blade. He answers his own question, stating that interferences like this are the hardest part of his job, turning the assassin's confidence to dust. The assassin's intricate plan is shattered in an instant. Thrown completely off balance, his confidence crumbles into disbelief as he stumbles backward, unable to comprehend how Akamori could have possibly seen through the hidden attack. Without a moment's hesitation, Akamori flows from defense into a calculated offense. He dodges the clumsy follow-up strike and weaponizes his environment, fluidly grabbing a nearby office chair to press his advantage against the stunned assassin. Akamori slams the chair down on the downed assassin. The assassin admits he'd been paying close attention, noting Akamori's unnaturally stable center of gravity. Akamori retorts that as a professional himself, he can read his opponent's moves, revealing he was aware of the surveillance all along. The assassin realizes with horror that Akamori intentionally left an opening to lure him into a trap. As his opponent fumbles for the poison pen, Akamori internally compares the tension to his last kill, someone from the Ministry of Defense. In a last-ditch effort, the assassin manages to assemble a hidden pen gun. He aims it at Akamori, a smug look on his face despite being beaten, and says he really didn't want to have to use it. Akamori is momentarily shocked by the unexpected weapon, but the shot misses. Akamori has already dodged and disarmed him again. As the assassin lies defeated on the floor, Akamori coldly reminds him that his murderous intent is indiscriminate in a public office. The assassin just laughs, promising to compensate him with a bullet to the head. The chapter ends on this chilling threat. Chapter 6. Carelessness. A man lies defeated on the ground amidst a bloody scene. His associate looks on as another man, a hitman, walks away. The associate remarks that the strongest mafia in the U.S., the Luciato family, employs the most evil hitman as their bodyguard. The hitman, Bugs Silva, laughs, saying he should get additional payment for the 3 he's killed. His associate Mataguma agrees, although he questions if this was all just a test of Silva's true strength. Mataguma is stunned by the scene of carnage. He can't comprehend the strength that seems to defy logic, as Silva stands there having dispatched multiple men. Mataguma asks how he did it, noting that it's unrealistic for even a professional hitman to instantly kill 3 heavyweight black belt judoists without a single scratch. Silva explains his simple logic. He claims they were simply careless. He waits until the target gets comfortable, and then he strikes. That is what a hitman needs to do. He elaborates that there are several types of careless people. The first are those who think they won't be targeted, and the next are those who think they won't get killed. Lastly, he mentions those who think they can protect themselves or even turn the tables. Mataguma quietly concedes the point. Mataguma admits that even after Silva has revealed his methods, the friendly aura he creates is disarming, making even him feel careless around him. Mataguma then brings up Akamori, asking if Silva's logic would still apply if he's active. Silva adjusts his glasses, pondering the question. Silva admits that for famous martial artists from a school of actual combat, his logic generally doesn't apply. He implies that's a different story altogether. In his mind, Silva visualizes a fight with such a martial artist, Mitsuo Akamori. He notes they aren't careless and that real combat isn't easy, as Akamori instantly attacks, throwing him off balance. The visualization continues. Akamori doesn't hesitate. He attacks only to kill. Silva imagines his ID card flying as he's thrown to the ground. Silva thinks about how even these professionals have rare moments of carelessness for just a second, and that's the moment he would exploit. He notes that this brief lapse in concentration typically happens to highly experienced professionals. When that moment comes, he would use the Haishin Kasatsu Ryu. He pictures himself delivering a decisive blow, a technique he calls the Calamity Terminator. But in his simulation, the tables turn instantly. Akamori dodges, and Silva is the one left shocked and vulnerable. Akamori stands over him, stating that his shallow tactics are useless. He declares that this is the end. However, Silva's train of thought continues. He reasons that people get careless because they appear stronger and are assured of victory. At that moment, he would use his trump card. He reveals his hidden weapon, a modified aluminum dagger concealed on his finger, ready to be deployed. Silva explains this is a tool for modern hitmen, a product of the latest science and technology, designed for a counterattack that goes beyond common sense, especially against a martial artist confident in their victory. But once again, his imagined scenario is thwarted. Akamori effortlessly catches his hand, telling him he can't even touch a real martial artist with a toy like that. Silva is left in disbelief. Akamori calmly explains that with just a single punch, he has already injured Silva's mastoid, mandible, and atlas, vital points that will stop his body from moving for a while. Akamori declares Silva's loss, telling him it's unfortunate, but he has underestimated what true martial arts are. He doesn't know who hired the man, but he assumes it was due to the viral videos. He scoffs at his opponent's recklessness, noting that the world he sees and the world his opponent lives in are completely different. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoes from a nearby door. The unexpected sound startles Akamori, breaking his intense focus. A hesitant voice from the other side asks, "May I come in?" causing him to react with bewildered shock. The scene snaps back to reality in the office meeting room. A female colleague opens the door, apologizing and reminding Akamori that the room is booked from 3 p.m. Slightly annoyed, Akamori asks them to wait outside for just 2 minutes. He sighs, gesturing dismissively and telling them he doesn't have time to play with them. He turns back to his work. His expression darkens as he states that he's so busy because it's a life or death situation. The scene then cuts to Bug Silva, sweating and grim-faced, revealing the true, less glorious end to his confrontation. As the cityscape transitions from day to night, Akamori's internal monologue concludes that he and the people around him truly do live in different worlds. Elsewhere, on a skyscraper rooftop, a woman identifies herself as a UN secret agent. She reports unfortunate news over the phone. Mataguma has failed his assassination mission, and therefore, her own plan to kill Mataguma after he dealt with Akamori has also failed. Her contact on the phone asks about the stupid hitman's location, to which she replies that she's finished him off already. The new order is clear. Get rid of Akamori before anyone else does. The agent lets out a small laugh, perplexed by the instruction to eliminate Akamori before anyone else. She walks away, reflecting on how Akamori's killing of a skilled hitman has made him popular. She realizes that now, it won't just be people seeking revenge who will come after him. The scene shifts to a bustling city street at night. A woman asks a man about the fate of the hitman, and he confirms that according to the information, no one has heard a word from him since, suggesting things are about to get exciting. Nearby, a stylish blonde woman sips her drink as her phone buzzes. In the background, someone loudly proclaims that no one cares if a hitman gets killed. She glances at the message. It's a warning for someone named Zen Kuma from the hitmans of Amagumi, stating that Mataguma has repeatedly screwed up trying to assassinate Akamori. The woman finds the carefree emoji at the end of the dire warning peculiar. The threat level escalates as mysterious. Hooded figures are seen walking through an airport, their target clear, Akamori. A group of men in black suits stand on an airport tarmac, saluting as their captain disembarks from a private jet. He tells them to hurry and show him the way. The captain declares that the fuse has been lit. Martial artists and fighters from different countries have already infiltrated Japan. The one who manages to defeat Akamori will be crowned the strongest. The final panel shows Akamori, oblivious, still focused on his computer screen as the chapter ends. Chapter 7, titled 100 Foolproof Ways for a Capable Employee to Win, opens with a tense air. Mitsuo Akamori stands with a cold, piercing gaze, his dual life as a salaryman and something far more sinister weighing on him. In the background, his colleague, Kashiwa Keat, looks on with concern, sensing that something is amiss. Continuing from the previous events, Mitsuo Akamori approaches the reception desk. He apologizes to the receptionist for the delay, claiming he accidentally broke a fluorescent light and that she might want to move to another room due to the glass shards. Suddenly, a mysterious woman appears, calling Akamori a disgrace for a legendary assassin. Akamori is startled, realizing she knows about his past. The woman scoffs, saying he's no Mataguma, but more like Bug Silva. The scene reveals the woman holding a knife to another man's throat. She tells her captive that he and Akamori have been added to the United Nations target list. The man is confused as to why the UN would come all the way to Japan just to capture him. She introduces herself as Lily, a United Nations secret agent. Her role is to be the cleaning personnel, eliminating evil based on the principles of peace. Akamori questions her methods, noting that she seems to be enjoying the assassination herself. Lily reveals her manipulative plan. She claims the kill order was wrong and that she has already sent a signal to her former organization, the Luciato family, spreading the news that she was defeated by Akamori. This is a setup to draw out more fighters and revengers against the Akamori family. In a swift, brutal motion, Lily slits her target's throat. As the man falls, she smiles, remarking that this struggle for supremacy looks like a lot of fun. Her actions show a chilling enjoyment to the chaos she creates. The next day at the office, Akamori's colleague, Kashiwa Keat, approaches him with concern. She points out that he's spilled his coffee, though the stain on his collar looks suspiciously like blood. Akamori panics internally, his senses still slightly off from the previous night's events. He worries about the bullet hole, the pen gun, and the broken light in the room, terrified that he'll be fired if anyone finds out. Kashiwa, meanwhile, is just concerned that he's drenched. He cautiously enters the room from last night, only to be completely stunned. The room is now perfectly clean, with no sign of the chaos that had transpired. Akamori is bewildered. The fluorescent light is brand new, and a painting has been hung to cover the bullet hole. Just then, a male colleague approaches, asking about his stained shirt and inviting him to go for drinks with the boss since he's finished his work. The scene transitions to an izakaya, where Akamori and his colleagues are having an after-work drinking party. Akamori, trying to blend in, accepts an order from his boss, thinking to himself that even a drinking party is work as long as the boss is present. Akamori, ever the awkward salaryman, tries to navigate the social situation by following the advice from a book titled The Art of Drinking Parties. He reasons that social skills are judged at these events, and decides to order something light and refreshing for the older guests. To everyone's astonishment, the waiter brings a large ice cream parfait. Akamori, having ordered what he thought was appropriate, is shocked as his colleagues stare in stunned silence. Realizing his mistake, Akamori panics but tells himself he can still recover. His boss and another colleague find the situation amusing. Akamori decides to follow the book's next piece of advice: match your drinking pace with your boss. As the night wears on, Kashiwa gets quite drunk. Another colleague with a headband lectures her, saying that as a member of society, she needs to be able to drink more, much to Akamori's silent disbelief. Akamori, who clearly has a low alcohol tolerance, starts to feel sick and decides to head to the toilet. His colleagues notice him leaving, with the drunken Kashiwa whining that she can't get enough of watching him. As Akamori makes his way up the stairs, a figure suddenly lunges at him from behind, aiming a powerful kick at his head. Reacting on pure instinct, Akamori blocks the kick with his hand, though he seems surprised by his own swift movement. The force of the block causes him to stumble back. The attacker reveals himself to be a young man named Lee Jae-hwan. He commends Akamori's block but mocks him for being too careless and getting drunk in his situation. Lee Jae-hwan reveals that Akamori's public displays of strength have made him easy to find. The entire izakaya is filled with assassins who are waiting for him, there for his death. Akamori assesses the troublesome situation. He knows he could kill Lee instantly, but with so many enemies and his colleagues nearby, he wants to avoid a public fight. He resolves to handle it as long as his colleagues don't find out his secret. Just as Akamori tells Lee to take the fight outside, he is shocked to see his colleague, Kashiwa, appearing on the stairs behind his attacker. Akamori realizes he's in the worst possible situation. With Kashiwa as a witness, he can't fight without causing a commotion and revealing his identity. He frantically tries to think of a way out, knowing his opponent won't hesitate to attack. To force Akamori's hand and create chaos, Lee Jae-hwan violently kicks a nearby table and chairs, causing a loud crash and drawing everyone's attention. Suddenly, a third party intervenes. A mysterious man with wavy dark hair grabs Lee Jae-hwan, contemptuously calling him an introvert for wearing a hoodie and telling him to wait outside. Akamori looks on, completely bewildered by the new arrival. The mysterious man turns his attention to a stunned Akamori, stating he has something important to share. He reveals his phone, displaying photos of Akamori in the midst of a fight, proving he knows everything about his hidden life. A jolt of recognition hits Akamori. He stares at the man, a dawning horror on his face as he asks, "You're from back then? Why are you here?" The question hangs in the air, thick with a dark, unspoken history. Ignoring Akamori for a moment, the man from his past glares at Lee Jae-hwan with pure menace. "Fuck off, you thug," he snarls, his eyes glowing with killing intent as he warns, "If you interfere, I'll kill you too." Lee Jae-hwan is left speechless by the sheer dominance of this new player. The standoff on the stairs grows more complicated as Kashiwa looks down on the scene, completely exposed. The mysterious man glances up at her, remarking that she's unlucky to have stumbled upon this. Akamori is frozen, trapped between two assassins and now with his colleague as a witness. As Akamori reels from the shock, the man from his past issues a chilling ultimatum. With Lee Jae-hwan still in his grasp, he declares, "Get out of my sight or die." The chapter ends on this dramatic cliffhanger, with Akamori's two worlds colliding in the most dangerous way possible. In a lavish high-rise apartment overlooking the city, an old man reflects on his master plan. It has been 20 years since he took a boy from an orphanage. Now his ultimate revenge machine, Jae-hwan, has finally been sent to Japan. The old man pours himself a drink, reminiscing about the brutal regimen Jae-hwan endured. The boy's entire life was composed of strict training, extra human growth hormones, and the sole purpose of killing the Akamori clan. With this, the old man's revenge for his son will be accomplished. Sitting in a room filled with trophies, the old man laments that his creation, Jae-hwan, is now far stronger than his own late son, who was once a national hero. The scene shows the aftermath of Jae-hwan's power. A concrete wall is shattered, splattered with blood next to a discarded dumbbell. The old man's voiceover concludes that such a monster cannot be made public. The scene shifts to a street in Japan. A blond man, Aota, provocatively throws a high kick right in front of Jae-hwan and his female colleague, who are just leaving a building. Jae-hwan quickly covers his colleague's eyes, telling her not to look. She seems confused and scared. Meanwhile, Aota smirks, amused by the situation, and asks if Jae-hwan wants to fight him in front of his colleague. Aota continues his taunts, blocking Jae-hwan's path and telling him not to ignore him. He tells him to come outside if he doesn't want to be killed or kicked from the back. Reluctantly, Jae-hwan agrees to leave with him. Outside the restaurant, Jae-hwan and Aota stand facing each other, ready for a confrontation under the dim streetlights. Aota sizes up his opponent, grabbing his own neck as he studies him. He asks to see what Jae-hwan is capable of, while Jae-hwan's intense gaze reveals his own assessment. "Ain't normal, huh?" Aota states that his own business is urgent and assumes Jae-hwan is also after revenge. He warns him to leave it for another day, as he can't have Jae-hwan interfering. But Jae-hwan remains defiant, implying that if Aota insists, he'll have to be defeated first. Without another word, Jae-hwan unleashes a powerful high kick, aiming straight for Aota's head with blinding speed. Aota is taken aback by the attack, a look of surprise on his face. Jae-hwan's expression is one of pure, dark determination. He states internally that his entire life has been in preparation for this very day. Aota gets into a fighting stance, ready to counter. The fight explodes into a flurry of motion. Jae-hwan attacks with a series of relentless kicks, which Aota manages to block and parry. Aota is shocked by the sheer skill of his opponent, exclaiming, "This guy?" Aota narrowly dodges a kick that shatters a sign behind him. He's unnerved by Jae-hwan's abnormal sharpness and the incredible speed of his movements, noting that kicks are coming at him from every direction. Aota realizes his initial assumption was wrong. Jae-hwan's sense of balance and agility are out of the ordinary, allowing him to execute continuous whip-like kicks. He realizes this isn't kickboxing. Jae-hwan is just like him. As their kicks clash in midair, Aota finally identifies the martial art. It's Taekwondo. The force of their impact sends both fighters flying backward. Jae-hwan lands gracefully, his eyes glowing with intensity. Aota, on the other hand, looks on with a mix of bewilderment and relief, a slight smile on his face as he processes the new development. The narration explains the common misconception that Taekwondo, particularly the World Taekwondo Federation, WTF style, is the weakest standing technique due to its point system. In contrast, International Taekwondo Federation ITF style is built on practicality, making it easy to damage the human body. However, Aota still believed his kickboxing was superior. A technical breakdown explains the 4 steps of a Taekwondo roundhouse kick. It's noted that 95% of attacks are footwork, primarily using super speed roundhouse kicks. The analysis continues, explaining why Taekwondo is considered ineffective against kickboxers. A kickboxer can perform a quick punch between steps 1 and 2, or counter against steps 2 and 3 with a low kick, or even force a miss in step 4 by clinching. Theoretically, Taekwondo can never beat kickboxing. However, Jae-hwan, who is full of murderous intent, is an exception to this rule. The secret is revealed. He's wearing steel safety shoes with no resin in them. The weight of these shoes is 2 kilograms on one foot. For ordinary people, this would be a heavy shackle. But for Jae-hwan, it turns his Taekwondo into a killer's martial art. He prepares a devastating heavy axe kick from overhead, with more than enough power to crush Aota's theory and his skull. But Aota finds an opportunity. The added 2 kilograms weight forms a normal centrifugal force, which Jae-hwan's pivot leg uses to whip upwards. This creates a gap. However, Aota's belief is shattered as Jae-hwan's overwhelming power and murderous intent, backed by his kickboxing pride from hundreds of fights, completely dominate him. Just as the fight is about to reach its deadly conclusion, 2 police officers arrive on the scene, demanding that the two separate immediately. Aota and Jae-hwan pause, their intense confrontation brought to an abrupt halt by the authorities. While a crowd looks on and a police officer reports the street fight, Jae-hwan begins to walk away from the scene. Undeterred, Aota glares at his back and issues a chilling promise, "Next time, I'll kill you." After saying goodbye to his colleagues, Jae-hwan makes an excuse about an important call to part ways with a female colleague who is worried about him. He turns and walks away with a determined look. Jae-hwan finds Aota crouching in an alleyway. "What are you doing?" he asks. Aota, clearly in pain, retorts that despite having fractures in his lower leg, he came looking for him. Jae-hwan coolly suggests he should go to a hospital. Infuriated, Aota grabs Jae-hwan, shouting that he had something to tell him. He complains that he's about to miss his last train and that he didn't agree to this. Aota angrily shoves 2 10,000 yen bills into Jae-hwan's suit, yelling that it's for his taxi fare and demanding he stay for just 30 minutes. Jae-hwan is left speechless by the gesture. Jae-hwan sighs and agrees to listen, but on one condition. Aota readily agrees. Jae-hwan then clarifies that it's less of a condition and more a part of Aota's responsibility. Jae-hwan bluntly states, "I don't know how to call a taxi. That's why you should call it for me." Aota is stunned into silence. The irony is palpable. He knows how to destroy humans, but not how to call a taxi. To top it off, Jae-hwan demands Aota buy him coffee too. Aota, completely bewildered, simply agrees as the chapter comes to an end. On a pedestrian overpass at night, Akamori Mitsuo leans against the railing, annoyed. He's confronted by a man named Aota, who seems to know him. Akamori remarks that it's been the worst day. As Aota reveals, he even knows where Akamori lives, a fact that clearly unnerves him. Aota explains that after Akamori took down a hitman, information about him was spread in retaliation, leaking through the entire criminal underworld. Akamori is shocked to hear how quickly his private life has been exposed. Aota continues, stating that it's no surprise people are after Akamori, since he comes from a legendary martial artist family. Akamori simply scoffs, then reminds Aota not to glare at him. Aota explains that he came today with a simple request. He mentions something called Fujin, a name connected to the martial artist families. Akamori is confused, having seemingly never heard of it. Aota describes Fujin as a large-scale martial arts event that's been running for 4 years. While its fundamental rules are similar to kickboxing, its primary selling point is that the fights are death matches. He elaborates that for fighters, winning Fujin is the endgame, bringing enormous prize money and the attention of advertisers. Hearing this, Akamori is appalled and immediately rejects the idea of entering such a brutal event. Aota quickly clarifies that he is the one who will be participating. He admits that right now, despite being a genius kickboxing champion, he's nothing more than a trifling fighter and needs to win for a specific reason. Therefore, Aota has a request for Akamori, who holds the overwhelming strength of the greatest martial artist family. With a look of intense determination, Aota asks him, "Please retrain me." Akamori, seemingly uninterested, turns and walks away down a narrow alley. Aota, refusing to be ignored, shouts for him to listen and runs after him in desperation. Aota catches up, pleading that he's serious. He feels he's walked the wrong course in life and has no other way to redeem himself. To prove himself, he needs to practice and achieve something significant. Bowing deeply, Aota reveals his true motivation. He's doing all of this so that his sister can live a normal life. Akamori stops and looks back at him, listening. A brief, violent memory flashes of a girl being thrown back. Akamori, however, remains cold. "Normal, huh? I'm not interested," he says, turning his back on the still bowing Aota. But as Aota expresses his frustration, Akamori stops. He offers a condition: "You've got 1 minute. If you can inflict any damage on me within a minute, I'll reconsider my thoughts." Akamori nonchalantly lists his handicaps. His foot hurts, he's currently drinking sake, and he won't counterattack. Aota becomes enraged, telling him to quit underestimating him as the 1-minute timer begins. Before Aota can even react, Akamori is right in front of him, his fist stopped just short of Aota's face. The sheer speed of the movement makes Aota feel a chilling premonition of death. The test continues. A perfectly ordinary salaryman is now silently and proudly teaching a lesson. Akamori effortlessly blocks Aota's punch and kick combination, demonstrating the secret to being powerful. Akamori continues to school Aota, deflecting a blow with his hand. He points out that when Aota steps forward, his punches become weak, and his attempts to evade are just simple reactions, not true technique. With a sigh, Aota collapses to the ground, the minute having passed. Akamori stands over him, stating that Aota knows his limits. He deduces that Aota isn't going all out because he has no true killing intent. Aota is suddenly thrown into a traumatic memory, seeing the silhouettes of several figures with unnerving, wide smiles, an image of his past haunting him. The flashback continues. A younger, beaten-up Aota, identified as the leader of the Cabaderia High Kickboxing Club, sits on the ground. A shadowy figure taunts him for being popular, while Aota stammers, confused. The bullies reveal that someone paid them a favor to break Aota's legs. As Aota sits helplessly, they deliver the final chilling threat, telling him it's already over for his little sister. Snapping back to the present, Aota isn't finished. With a burst of energy, he leaps onto the railing of the overpass, launching himself into one last, desperate attack as Akamori watches. Using the railing as a springboard, Aota pushes off with his foot. He declares with fierce intensity that he still has not given up, his eyes locked on Akamori. Aota throws his entire body forward in what he calls an honorable death tackle. But Akamori, unfazed, calmly anticipates the move, seeing the attack for what it is, a desperate, telegraph lunge. Before the tackle can connect, Akamori executes a simple, precise leg sweep. Aota's desperate attack is instantly neutralized as his balance is broken, sending him stumbling to the ground once more. As Aota recovers, Akamori critiques his clumsy final attack. He then begins his first lesson, stating he's glad Aota showed some drive. He places a can of black coffee on the ground, explaining that to be effective, Aota needs to maintain stability, which is determined by his flexibility. Akamori explains his theory further. He boasts that his own limbs are far more flexible than those of professional athletes. By increasing the flexibility and range of motion in his hip and knee joints, Aota's body will become more stable, markedly increasing his offensive and defensive options. This is where they will begin. Akamori points a finger, telling Aota he should be thankful, as he's going out of his way to provide this training while drunk. On the ground, and having just thrown up from the exertion, Aota begrudgingly thinks to himself that Akamori is, in his own way, an honest teacher. The scene shifts. It's 11:43 p.m. in front of the Akamori residence. A man and a woman are staking out the building. The man complains that they've been waiting for 6 hours, while the woman clinically corrects him. It's been 5 hours and 12 minutes. The man wonders when their target, Akamori, will be back and suggests going to buy magazines. The woman coldly states she minds. Undeterred, he puts his arm around her, telling her not to be so uptight and commenting on her soft body. The woman is clearly displeased. After someone apologizes for bumping into her, she turns her attention back to her partner. With a chilling gaze, she suggests that if he's so bored, he should deal with the people loitering around, implying he should eliminate any potential witnesses or threats. Her partner looks over at the loiterers standing near some cars and a vending machine. He agrees with a sinister smirk, saying he could certainly do that, ready to unleash some violence. The scene cuts back to Akamori and Aota. Aota reveals the full extent of the leaked information. The hitmen have Akamori's address, his workplace, and his daily commuting route. Akamori is horrified, shouting in disbelief that they're aiming for his family. He then tells the sick-looking Aota to wipe the vomit off his face. Overlooking the vast city skyline at night, Akamori sighs, stating that this has truly been the worst day. He then turns to Aota and makes an unexpected offer. What do you want to do? You want to wait it out in my house. The chapter ends, marking the start of a bizarre alliance between the salaryman teacher and his criminal student.